King Charles never expected Islamic hell to be this detailed, this psychological, and this real. When he first read the Quranic chapters describing Jahannam, his reaction was pure shock because it felt less like a place of punishment and more like a mirror of a person's own actions. And man, that's the part that gets me, because we're talking about a worldview where hell isn't just fire and demons. It's almost like this cosmic reflection of who you became. You know, most people in the West grow up with this vague idea of hell. Flames, devils, pitchforks, this medieval painting kind of vibe. But in Islam, it's different. It's not cartoonish. It's psychological. It's moral. It's like the consequences of your choices turned into an environment. And when you read those descriptions, you get this very uncomfortable feeling that it's not talking about bad people somewhere out there. It's talking about the dark side inside you. And that's probably why someone like King Charles, a guy who's exposed to every religion, every academic perspective, every spiritual tradition, sees something in these verses that hits differently. Because Islam doesn't soften the edges. It doesn't give you this symbolic hell where everything's metaphorical. It's literal enough to scare you and metaphorical enough to make you self-reflect. That's a dangerous combination. What blows my mind is how specific some of the descriptions are. Not just fire, it talks about regret, ego, hypocrisy, arrogance, like the internal stuff that eats people alive even in real life. It's almost like the Quran is saying, look, you're already carrying pieces of hell inside you, and death just strips away the part that hides it. That's wild. That's not just theology, that's psychological warfare on your soul. And I think that's what fascinates Western thinkers, because Western religion often focuses on forgiveness and salvation and redemption. Beautiful concepts. But Islamic accountability, that's a different beast. It's personal responsibility cranked to 11. You can't transfer sins. Nobody can die for them. Nobody can erase them unless you face them. It's you, your choices, and the record of your life. That's intense. That's raw. That's very Rogan podcast energy, honestly. And here's the crazy thing. A lot of scholars point out that the descriptions of hell in Islam aren't just meant to scare people. They're meant to make you imagine consequences, real consequences. Like you lie, it talks about faces disfigured by their own dishonesty. You act arrogantly, it talks about people being made small, crushed by the weight of their own ego. It's like a psychological thriller turned cosmic. Even the fire isn't just super hot flames. It's described as something that burns not just your skin, but everything you hid. Your intentions, your motives. Imagine a reality where every fake smile, every manipulation, every injustice gets exposed by the environment itself. That's like some Black Mirror episode, but on a divine scale. And that's the part Western readers aren't ready for. Because over here, we're used to thinking of hell as this distant symbolic place, almost optional to believe in. But in the Islamic worldview, it's woven into the moral fabric of existence. It's the shadow side of free will. It's the feedback loop of your behavior. And when people like Charles, who've studied philosophy, anthropology, Eastern religions, everything, read that stuff, you can see why they go, wait a second, this is way too deep. Another thing that stands out is how the Quran doesn't portray God as wanting to send people there. It's always described as something you walk into by your own patterns. And that's such a wild contrast to how Westerners think of divine punishment. It feels less like a ruler punishing subjects and more like a moral universe operating on built-in consequences, like gravity, but ethical. And let's be real, humans respond to consequences more than act morality. That's why these descriptions hit so hard. They're not just be good. They're, if you become this type of person, your inner state becomes your outer world. And it makes you look at yourself and go, damn, what am I actually doing with my life? What kind of energy am I putting out there? Even the idea that the people of hell argue with themselves or blame themselves or feel the weight of their wasted opportunities, that's psychological horror. That's every regret you've ever had multiplied by eternity. Not because someone tortured you, but because you finally understand who you became. And the more you read it, the more it stops feeling like a medieval threat and starts feeling like a very blunt mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable, especially powerful people, especially leaders, especially intellectuals who spend their entire life looking outward instead of inward. So when someone like King Charles encounters this, not in a sensational tabloid way, but in that quiet, personal, reflective way that people read scripture, of course he's going to have a reaction. Of course he's going to be shocked, because it's not hell as a place, it's hell as accountability. And accountability, That's the scariest thing in the human experience. The more I think about it, the more I get why Islamic teachings hit people differently. They don't care who you are, king or commoner, rich or poor, celebrity or nobody. Your status means nothing, your intentions mean everything, and man, in a world obsessed with appearances, that kind of spiritual system is terrifying, but it's also liberating, because it means your life is entirely yours. Your legacy, your afterlife, your fate. No cosmic nepotism, no special passes, just truth, pure, uncomfortable, unfiltered truth. And maybe that's why these descriptions of Jahannam feel so real. Because deep down, every human being knows they're capable of creating their own heaven or their own hell, long before they die.